Hi, this is Akmir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Fox Markets for Friday, the 4th of March. Obviously, not too many heroes today, apart from in the Ukraine with the FTSE down 3%, but a few stocks to maybe take a look at, even if it's only for academic purposes. Starting off with Bushveld, which spiked up towards 14 pence, obviously testing the post-July resistance area. Could get up to 15 pence if we hold above 12, which was the initial March resistance. So maybe that's something to take a look at. Ben's Creek, interesting. That sort of had a bit of a reversal yesterday from what looks like the top of that rising trend channel that we've got in place since November. Top of that channel still heading for £1, but it just obviously depends where the consolidation will go down to. Possibly down to the low 60s, which was the old February resistance area. So maybe that's something that one has to factor in. But at least while we're above the low 60s, looking for that £1 target over the next month or two, hopefully. Moving along to a stock which is looking rather better than it has for a while. Blue Rock Diamonds. Here we've got a situation where the shares have been consolidating above a sharply rising 50-day moving average, and that's the key here. Rising 50-day line above or at the lows tends to be a decent signal. In this case, we're probably looking towards a line of resistance to retest the 58 pence high from back in August, and that's valid while we hold above the 50-day line, currently around 38 pence. Ideally, there's no sub 40 pence price action ahead of a potential move towards 58. Interesting thing to note, maybe if you're looking for a glimmer of hope over the near term for the market and the geopolitical situation in general, we've got a rise for Evraz today, up 22%. We didn't break yesterday's low, which was around 50 pence, even though the market's weaker today. And we've still got that falling line of RSI line there, going down to what's the sort of low teens in terms of the RSI there. And quite a lot of bullish positive volume there. Maybe not today, but in general there has been. So it could be possibly that we've got a low in there. But what tends to happen historically is that it is stocks related to whatever is causing the bearishness in the market, the rise first. So this may be anticipating a move. We've also got bullish divergence with the higher RSI this week versus the RSI at much higher price levels last week. So just, as I said, just a glimmer of hope. If we break yesterday's high at 76 pence, that might be the first signal of a turnaround. But obviously that's not for widows and orphans or anybody who's squeamish at all, given that we've had many false dawns all the way down on Evraz. Another situation which may be on the turn here is Euroeuropa Metals. Here we've got the potential that the shares are going to break that line of resistance there, falling wedge, which has been in place for months, back for a year. If you're fussy, you're probably looking for a break of the 50-day moving average at 4.3 pence. And that could then lead to the bottom of the gap back in October at 6 pence plus. But again, very speculative. A bit of bullish divergence there as well. Lower lows for the price so far this month versus February, but the RSI is a bit higher. So if you like a bottom fish, that might be the stock to look at. Stock which seems to be performing quite strongly in the current market is Emerson. Obviously, we're waiting for news here. Can't quite remember what that news is now, but there's been so many sort of milestones that the company's had to hit. But we've got a rising trend channel here from this time last year. Top of the channel heading towards 8.5 pence. And the longer we stay above 5.5, the greater the chance of a move to that area, maybe over the next month or two. Trying to find stocks which are outperforming in this market. One of them has been Harvest Minerals. Hit the top of that channel there from October, around 11 pence. In fact, overshot that. But we could still see the shares maybe up towards 13 pence, especially while we hold above, let's say, the 9.5 pence area, which is the middle of that bull flag that we've had from the end of last month. So 13 pence there while we're above 9.5 is possible. Stock which is shaping up well, but hasn't quite got the energy to push higher just yet is JKX Oil Gas. Here we've broken above the 50-day moving average, which we did a week or so ago, and we bounced off it at 39.5 pence. So that does suggest that we could at least have an attempt at retesting October resistance around 55 pence over the next month or two, but at least the risk reward there, while the shares remain above the upper 30s to go into the mid 50s, looks to be on if you are relatively patient. Stock which I have missed out on over the recent past is Kropz. Got a nice U-shaped reversal there since May, approaching the main sort of neckline resistance there around 9.5 pence, which looks as though it'll be beaten. Island reversal started the move, so basically we're looking at the entry point. If I'd been looking at the chart, would have been around 7 pence. So I suppose we're not too far off that. In terms of the upside here, potential is for a move towards the top of this rising trend channel, size 16 or 17 pence over the next couple of months, with the trigger here, obviously, the break of that spike that we had in September around 9.5. But you could argue that above 7 pence, we're already on our way, and we've got the 50 and 200-day moving averages rising quite well in a spike in volume yesterday, so that seems to be in a better place. Stock which I've covered this week earlier on is McCalls. Looks as though some people are backing this as a sort of a bounce play. There's been some positive volume there. Obviously, at the moment, doesn't look like it's particularly rampant, but we've had a couple of higher lows versus the all-time low there at 1.2 pence. Probably want to see the shares break yesterday's high in an Evraz fashion at 2.1 to be more confident that we could then head up towards 4 or 5 pence and try and test the bottom of the gap down. But again, not one for widows and orphans. Speaking of the idea that shares may be ready to anticipate a turnaround, Petropavlovsk has sort of fallen like a obviously fallen as a falling knife here, a falling knife situation. RSI now down to 10. So it'll be interesting to see whether there's going to be any, at least a sort of intermediate reaction, perhaps back to 2.5 pence, something like that, over the near term. But again, you're catching a falling knife there. A very difficult situation indeed. Stock which has rehabilitated itself of late is Southern Energy. Here we've got a rising trend channel from December. Looks like we've got a potential for a target at the 200-day moving average in the top of the channel at 34 pence. We've gapped up this week. We've got a rising 50-day line at the low, so that does suggest positive momentum there. And probably just need a decent weekly close at 26 pence plus to trigger the move towards 34, 35 pence, maybe over the next 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. One of the more successful IPOs of last year was Tungsten West. And here we've broken, well, yesterday we broke a trend line there in the wake of the update from the company, the 50-day moving average at 57 pence. Situation now is that above that 57 pence area, above the 50-day moving average, there's a possibility of a move towards 75 pence over the next month or so. Be good to see an end-of-day close above the 200-day average at 62 pence. Let's see if we can get that over either today or over the next few days. That's it from me today. More updates next week.